What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka Toe Tag and Tambo, back for another swing season edition of the Strokes Gain Show here on RPS. Here with my guy Hoop. We're going to be talking all things Sanderson Farms, coming off of a great President's Cup. Hoop, we're going to get right into it, man. We had the show last week. Not a lot. We talked about it. Not a lot of people wanted to do the content. Not a lot of people wanted to put in the work. It was a game three slate. You had to build the teams. You and I talked about fitting multiples of the best teams. You had an absolutely incredible call on the bench players, which I took note of. Like, no one wants to play these guys that are only going to maybe get 4 matches. And the guy on my winning lineup, I shipped the slate with a couple of members, couple others out there, hit me up on Twitter. It was great to see, with Munoz off the bench. Did not play 4 matches even on top of let alone 5, and then also beat world number 1 Scheffler on the way out. So it took some run pure, but that's what we do here. And we're going to talk more about that after this show, myself, Big T, JSU. So stick around with us for a while. Hoop, how you doing this week, my man? What's going on?
Yeah, congrats on the shipper. I mean, it was fun down the stretch. I mean, I was close. I did well last week. Didn't have the full ship. The thing that hurt me bad was freaking Morikawa sitting twice. I really didn't see that coming. I don't know like where that came from. And had a ton of him. I think he ended up being like my highest owned captain. In hindsight, probably should have shifted to more Spieth. I had a ton of Spieth too, but just a heavy approach. I mean, seemed pretty clear Spieth and JT were going to play together, almost every round, which they did, and they had success. So yeah, shifting some of my Morikawa to Spieth, I think would have got the job done, but it was a good week overall. I thought we were, on point with the analysis and the roster construction stuff. It's not very often in PGA DFS where correlation matters. I mean, tee time stuff, yeah, that's when correlation matters. Maybe skill set stuff. If you're looking for a certain skill set, there's correlation there. But in terms of just straight up, like if this guy does well, this other guy is guaranteed to do well too. We don't get that very often. I like what we came up with last week. You fully shipped. Like we said, I was pretty close, and it really was just off everything we talked about on the show last week. So now we're back to full field event here this week, and it's obviously going to be some weak fields, and this one certainly is, which we'll talk about when we get into the pricing here.
Yeah, we're going to get right into this one because there's a lot to go through still. And just like you said, though, when you come into the swing season, a lot of people aren't going to put in the work, right? We talk about it every single week, the lazy weeks. You're seeing it already this week. Burns, Montgomery, Thigala, Grillo, Riley, like the ownership has already posted in some places where you can see it's just all over these main guys, and people aren't going to dig in to find leverage plays or go down the board. And that's what we do at RPS. We talk about it all the time, the core plays, where we're actually putting 3 of our favorite that you can start your lineup of 6 with, and then move it from there using our other content where Snyder breaks down the playbook and puts all plays in different tiers that he likes, fades that he's going with, talks about the course details. Go to your cash chart, Hoop. You can take right from there. If your lineup's unique enough already and you're getting off the board on some leverage plays, you can take those cash plays and plug them into your lineup and get yourself some good floor and upside combinations. So if you guys aren't signed up yet, head on over to Run Pure Sports, get signed up, get in the Discord, all sports, one price, all of those tools to help simplify these slates for you. And then if you haven't yet coming in here today, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, helps us out a ton. Even if you're watching it later, hit it. And again, like I said, we've got another great show coming up next, all free shows here today. So back to back, at least for these 2. So stick with us. Hoop, let's dive right into it. The course, they play it often enough. I noted one thing yesterday when I did the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast with my boy Kenny Kim, that the course history is, because there's so much here, it's cool. But at the same time, it's really, really random. Like guys will miss a cut, and then top 5, they'll, win, miss a cut, come 15th. Like it's just so off and on. I think it has a lot to do with these greens, the pure Bermuda greens, where most people that are on them and like them end up doing well, but it comes down to a putting contest. That's what you get in these swing season events. So if you're not on for the week, it's not going to go your way. And that's such a big part of it. So with that variance in mind, we'll dive right in. Anything on the course or strategy that you want to talk about before we get into these tiers?
Yeah, I mean, a basic strategy point, I think, for this course is, the rough is not very penile at all, and the greens are very big. So you need to be hitting it close, and you need to be making putts. And good putters have typically done well here. So I am going to give an advantage to some of these guys that are known as good putters. It's an easy course for the most part. So, it's difficult though. Like you said, I mean, people are going to come here and start building teams and just go to the names that they know. And there's more to this slate, I think, for sure, than just that. So it's a week where you really got to put in the work and develop a strategy. But really, you want guys that can putt pretty well. And it's probably why Sam Burns won here last year. He's a really good putter. So let's get into it.
Yeah, and I'm going to make sure that I'll dial in my ownership more overnight tonight, have that in the Discord over at Run Pure tomorrow where I get my personal ownership up. It really helps find some of those leverage plays that we're looking for. We're going to take sort of, like you said, a first look at it, go through. I'm going for my second look, so I feel a little bit better about some of the thoughts already. I built some lineups last night, just sort of looking at angles to get ready for this show today. But like you said, driving distance, I know you don't need it here, but at the same time, it never hurts you when you go on a course like this that you can definitely bomb and gouge. You look at the top 20 here last year, there was like 12 names in the top 20 that just bomb it out there a bunch. And then the par fives, the birdies are better, all that stuff that's going to matter. DraftKings scoring in general, a lot of like little correlations and stuff with the courses where guys score the most. So you'll see like Rocket Mortgage Classic, very comparable with the 4 par fives, bomb and gouge, Bryson Wolf, those types of winners. All applies over to a course like this. John Deere Classic, just for the general scoring and a spot that you can get around and find your way to a bunch of birdies out there. So all of that stuff will come into my thoughts when I'm thinking about what I'm doing on this slate. Up top, though, we got the burning question. Already saw it in chat a couple times. Hoop, Sam Burns, interesting spot here, right? Defending champion, a little bit of media requirements to come with that. Coming off of what is probably a very long Sunday night. I saw Max Homa tweet out, I am unwell at 8:45 in the morning on Monday morning. And JT seconded it, said retweet, where they were coming off the win at the President's Cup, which Sam Burns obviously a part of. And then on top of that with Sam Burns, played actually very well on the week. A lot of big putts, I will say, but he didn't even get the points for some of those spots. I think, one of the days he went extremely low and lost the match. So it's like, similar things that we've seen in the past, but you don't always get this crossover of President's Cup coming into this. He is a younger guy, but he played all 5 matches, ups and downs, big night, Sunday night. What are you doing here with Sam Burns? And then what are you doing with the other guys at the top? Let's go Denny McCarthy and up with the Sebastian Munoz WD. For those that don't know, will not be in the field at 9,700.
I don't mean to be like a Debbie Downer, but like, man, is the U.S., are they entitled to like celebrate this victory? I mean, the thing is that you look at, I wish they had changed this format a little bit. I was like, what is a fair comparison like in the sporting world? And I came up with this, and let me know what you think, because I'm curious. If you were doing an NBA game or some sort of NBA contest, and the U.S. team or whatever the main team is, they are able to pick starters from the NBA. So they can take any starters they want in the NBA, but the B team, the second team, is only allowed to take like bench players. They can't take any starters. I think it's a pretty fair comparison. Like the U.S. is just absolutely stacked versus what the president or the international team had to choose from.
Yeah, I think it's good. Isn't this like a true story though? Didn't you see there's the new Netflix documentary coming out, The Redeem Team, when Kobe joined, and there's all those cool interviews of like Kobe running through POW and like showing these guys, I'm here for real. I don't care if he's my teammate. But didn't it happen like the Olympics before that, where they lost, and it was like, how the hell did this team lose?
Yeah.
So, but that's the comparison. It's like you said, I don't know about the being able to celebrate it or not, but to your point, I mean, there were minus 700 favorites, could have been even heavier favorites, I think, if you look at how it sort of shook out. Argument being that on day one, it was really only Cantlay and X that punished the other squad, while the other 4 matches did go to like hole 16, 17 or further. So could have went either way, but I guess I'm with you. Like, I don't know how much, but these guys are going to celebrate.
No, for sure. I get it. But it's like, man, I wish there's a way where it could be like a little, why can't they use the Euro guys? What's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah. Well, that's the setup of it, right? International is everything non-Europe, and that's what the Ryder Cup is all about. So that's why you don't get the ROMs, the rules.
Oh, they should let the international team take the Euros too. Then it would be very interesting.
Ryder Cup, baby, it's going to be in Rome. Next.
Yeah,
that's going to be exciting. But if you guys are interested, the next President's Cup, by the way, 2024, is in Montreal in Canada.
Ah,
great spot to party. Going to be a great event. I will definitely be there 100% that week. It's going to be incredible. And we'll see what the teams look like then. I know Cam Smith, no Neiman, no Answer, but back to this week. Let's talk about
they finally eliminated the travel restrictions. So, your buddy, I can come up and join you.
Yeah, you and the wife. Bring the fam. We'll get a nice little outing there. It'll be a fun time.
That would be fun.
Maybe don't bring the wife actually in Montreal. We might have a better time without the wife. So
yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, we'll plan it. We'll plan it.
Yeah. In terms of this,
Sammy Burns. I know it could be off right now, but literally projecting for like 30 to 35% range. We'll call it a 5% range. Theegala getting a little bit of extra love behind him, just because if you remember last event at the Fortinet hoop before the President's Cup, remember nobody wanted Theegala at the 10K plus price tag. He then went on to have like a top 5 at the event. A lot of people expecting him to get his win here in the swing season. So this week it's different. Poston and Henley not getting much love. People are just spending up on Theegala and mostly Burns. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, with Sammy Burns, I mean, you look at him in this field and he's clearly in a tier of his own. And obviously ownership is going to reflect that because he is going to be the highest owned guy. It's easy to play him. I mean, I wish they would have priced him up a little bit more. 10-7, it's easy to get to him. I mean, let's say you go ahead and plug him in, you're still basically 7.9K for your other 5 spots. So it's very easy to play Sammy Burns. I wish they would have put him in that 11K range. I mean, you know, my approach with these guys that are coming in high owned, if you want to play him, you got to get way over the field. I mean, I don't see the point of playing him at or below the ownership, and his league line is 35%. So you really are going to be if you play him, you need to be banking on him having like a top 5 finish, and your lineup should reflect that. So definitely in on him, in on Theegala. I mean, I think the guy's just good. He's shown the ability to compete at the Fortinet, finished 6th, 28th at the Tour Championship, which obviously isn't good because that was out of like 30 guys, but weird with all the starting positions. So we give him the pass there. But prior to that, the BMW is solid. FedEx St. Junior is solid. He's shown the ability to compete, and I agree with you. I think he gets the win here at some point. But yeah, his ownership it's going to be up there a little bit. And then it's interesting with like Poston and Henley, because you look at these guys 10-2 and 10-1, and you travel down a little bit, and very similar guys for cheaper, I guess, is what I would say. JT Poston, I do still like at 10-2. I mean, it's not a prohibitive price tag. Like I get it. 10-2 for Poston, it doesn't feel comfortable. But like, you can play him, you can play 2 guys up here and still find a solid roster. If you go Poston and Burns to start, you're at like 7.3K for the rest of your spots. So you can definitely make it happen. Henley's a guy I'm not completely sold on here. You know, he's the one I probably leave out of my player pool. But yeah, Burns, Theegala, and Poston treated us very well. Continues to play solid golf, I'd say. Finished 15th at that Tour Championship, which is a solid number. I'm in on him. He's obviously going to be the lowest owned in this range, but like I said, with Burns, you know what you got to do if you're playing him. You got to allocate a lot of your lineups to him. So, but I'm in on those 3, out on Henley.
Yeah, like the thing with Burns is you just gotta either you play him or you don't. In the sense, they don't have to go all in. I'm just at the point of like, if you're worried about, I think the good news is that the hangover effect should at least keep his ownership in check at this price at 10-7, where usually, like you said, not only should he be priced higher, but usually even more ownership would potentially come with this spot. So I think that's more interesting. Theegala going back to back, and just because he's going to get in the swing season, I actually have a harder time with him, only because when I dug in further and things that I liked, you just mentioned JT Poston, things that stood out for me. 3rd at the Sanderson 2 years ago here. He won the John Deere. We talked about the scoring and going low there. The Barbasol in Kentucky. This is in Mississippi. A lot of this correlation of the sort of the where they're at on the map, that sort of thing comes into play as well this week. I just think Poston could be a unique play up here. Like you said, the downside of that is there's guys in the 9K will like just as much or more. To me, though, the upside is that if you're willing to move off of Theegala or Burns, just pick one of them, you can get different here by building with 2 of these guys up top. And I think you brought that up as well. So I like that call. Secondly, we're going to save it for the next show, the unique versus duped conversations. But I will say another great thing about this week, you can definitely get unique, Hoop, by just fading this 10K range. Like, there is a lot of guys in the 9Ks that you can play. You can play 3 guys in the 9K and leave 1,000 on the table. At
the end of the day. Yeah. I mean, how much of a different play is Theegala from, I don't know, Rio or Riley in the low 9s? Like, they're very comparable golfers in terms of like what you expect them to do here. So I don't hate that move either. The one thing I did want to add, though, is what was it, 5 times last year where we saw back-to-back winner, a guy that won the event and then followed up and won. Is that the stat, right? 5 times. That's right. So yeah. I mean, it's a trend, and it's something to consider with Burns as well.
And that's where I'm at. Like I said, again, even if he is the highest owned and it comes down to it, whatever, you can get, there's so many guys to get different with down below. I am going to be mixing more guys at the top. At the Fortinet, I went opposite. At this event, I like 9K and up. And I actually really like the 8K range too when we get there. But I'm saying I want to mix these unique price guys where there's only one guy at each price point and then take stands at the bottom. And that's what I'm going to do. I've only got like 16 to 20 down below total. And then I can start mixing, 10, 15 up here. No problem. So for me, Burns, Poston, and then hop into the 9K range. I'll let you start it off. Hoop McCarthy. You talked about getting on some good putters here. I'm not sure if he's going to be for you. I mean, he's one of the best putters in the world, so it would make sense. A good on Bermuda, all those factors. But McCarthy down to the aforementioned Davis Riley. What do you got here in this 9K range?
Yeah, there's guys I like here quite a bit. I mean, starting at the top with McCarthy. I mean, we talk about wanting good putters, and there's no one better than him. He did kind of hurt us, I'd say, down the stretch. I mean, we were high on him at the Rocket Mortgage. He failed. We were high on him at Travelers. He failed. Seems like down the stretch when we were off him, he did well. When we were on him, he didn't do well. But new season here, and maybe he treats us well to start. 25th at the Fortinet. Obviously, we'll probably need to do better than that, but this field, I think, is even weaker. So I'm going to be in on him. I was bummed Munoz was out. I was kind of looking forward to playing him, build off that momentum from the President's Cup, probably with the best player on the international team. Taylor Montgomery here did not disappoint. We're on him quite a bit, and the Fortinet finished third. I want to go back to him. Got to start making some cuts, obviously, because of what we talked about. Scott Stallings, I played him a lot down the stretch, but probably just going to have to be off of him because I like these other guys better. Keegan at 9.4, I'll fade him. Bez at 9.3, definitely a fade. And then I like what I've seen out of Grillo recently, kind of turning his game around. I like the momentum I'm seeing. I think he can build on it here at 9.2. And then Davis Riley, I mean, he's been frustrating, and it looks like he's still going to be owned. Was hot at a point there last year, but man, he kind of fell off and really never got it back when you're looking at his results. I mean, he had some. He's 13th at the Wyndham. Outside of that, he did not have a finish better than 31st for like 8 events. So if he's going to be popular here at, what is he? He's 9K, and it's looking like maybe close to 20%. I can get off a guy that's struggling even in a weak field. So he's a guy that I might potentially get off here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different than you in this range. So I'm going to take Riley up. I know it's got, again, it's like you said, it is a little bit scary that he's popular. The other thing is he's like the community betting favorite. Everyone got him somewhere between 40 and 50. That usually does not end up well. So if MME, I plug him in and just get after it there. That might be the case. And then in something like a higher dollar, smaller field single entry, I might go off of him and use him as the pivot in the lineup, just because, like you said, he's going to be even more popular the higher stakes we go. He's easy to fit in. I already looked at roster construction. You could fit him in as your third guy, no problem. So I think that's something to think about when you're building for your higher dollar, smaller field, or anything with a sort of 1 to 3 max setup where you can just get different. But I do like one guy over another here. And I tried to talk Kenny off the ledge last night. I got him to flip. Scotty Stallings actually shows up really well at all the correlation courses. This course itself, on a bit of a good run. If you go look at his recent form, is all there. The stats set up well. And Denny McCarthy, well, he is an excellent putter. You talked about it, Hoop. It's these 28th places and 30th places that are they look good, but not when you're almost 10,000.
Yeah, it's not going to do it here.
So I have trouble with that. I like Montgomery too, but I'm saying if it's for me in this range, Montgomery, Stallings, I'm with you on Grillo, and then Riley. But like I said, I think Riley is one of the ones you'd maybe want to pivot off of in the higher the fields you go, because he pops everywhere in the stats. Another thing about him, the quote came out today, most probably watching this or seeing it, we're digging into everything, but a Willie Z quote came out about his boy, Davis Riley. They play a lot of golf together. There's stories of them playing out at their home course with Tony Romo and all these other stories that go with it, but just talking about how good he is, too good not to win, gonna get the job done in the swing season. And on top of that, soon to be top 10 in the world. He said, just wait for it. You'll watch and see. And so there's just so much going behind this guy.
It looked like he was trending that way last season. I mean, honestly, it did. It looked like he was clearly trending in that direction. But he got derailed at one point. I mean, really, it looks like after the U.S. Open, it was a disaster. But prior to that,
I think one part that had to do with it was last year's winner of this event, also winner of the event he lost in the playoff at the Valspar, was Sammy Burns. But on this other note of that same point, I would say that one, if he plays well where Sam Burns plays well, this is the place Burns won last year. On top of that, at the Valspar, it was on Bermuda greens. So now we're going to the same thing here. I think that's, again, my thoughts are he's 900 less than McCarthy. He hasn't been playing even as good as McCarthy's last 3 or 4 events, but the point would be he's not even close to me as a better golfer. And on top of that, when he's hot, I think he has more upside. He reminds me more of like a Max Homa where it's boom or bust, but when Homa's in the mix, you're looking at a top 5. And in Homa's case, it's been a win. So I like that with a guy like him, where again, in large fields, we want that ceiling opportunity. I think he's got it more, and he's $900 cheaper than a guy like McCarthy up top. Montgomery, who you mentioned, just been on an absolute tear, but another guy I would expect to be very, very popular. So those are the 2 guys in this range that you can look at getting off of. And like Hoop said earlier, guys, if you want to just switch it up, go with 2 guys above 10K. And then drop down and skip the 9K range. I know the FOMO that's associated with that. We talk about it all the time, but what if Riley gets his win? Or what if McCarthy does putt lights out? Montgomery's so hot. He's going to win soon. He's all these top 5s. It's true. But we see it time and time again where that is not needed and it just doesn't matter. And yeah, one of them probably comes through, but that doesn't guarantee that they end up with 5 other perfect golfers that then end up making the winning lineup. Obviously, if the winner's in there, you miss out. So do it with a portion or, a piece of your portfolio when you're building out lineups. But I definitely think that's something to consider. Hoop, let's move down. Let's go to this 8K range. I think this range is actually very interesting. And usually because of what we have up top, we have to skip it. My argument earlier was that if you did want to just skip the 10K range, I wouldn't hate it when it's McCarthy at 99, Henley, Poston. We like Thigala, but ownership, and Burns, lots of ownership. You're probably not all in on Burns. So I think this range does become more interesting than normal, but I'll get your thoughts. Sepp Straka down to Wyndham Clark at 8,000 even.
Yeah, I mean, the problem for me is, I'm most likely taking the heavy Sammy Burns approach which means I cannot necessarily be here all that often in this range. A few guys that do stand out, though, that I will have some exposure to is Taylor Moore, playing solid for the most part. I mean, 36 at the Fortinet, where now we're in this range where we don't necessarily need the top 10s. We talked about Denny McCarthy, which I think is a really good point on your behalf. Like, man, what's his upside? Like, realistic upside, and it's probably like in the 20s. I think that's what you can kind of bank on out of Denny McCarthy as like his ceiling type performance. Yes, there's going to be outliers where he goes on to win, but realistically 20s are probably where McCarthy is. And at 9.9, that's not good enough. So that's something that I might end up reconsidering. But I guess my point is, like with a guy like Taylor Moore, if someone 8.5K, is in that 20 range, which I think is reasonable expectation for him, he's a guy you want. So in on him at 8.5. Molinex is a guy that, playing hot, but then, missed that cut at the Fortinet. Can he bounce back here? I think he can. Interested in him. Chris Kirk at 8.2. I mean, it's probably not a good thing, but I just always play Chris Kirk. It's worked out at times, but more times than not, it does not. But I'll be in on him at the 8.2. Don't really think I can go to Gary Woodland. He's just showing just absolutely nothing. I like him as a golfer. I hope he finds it at some point. And if he does, good for him. But he's not going to be in my lineups. And I'm in on Wyndham Clark. Had a nice little stretch there. Cooled off a little bit. The Fortinet 43rd. But again, can he get into the 20s, top 20s? I think he can. Gonna have to fade some of these guys like Sepp and Detry, Hadwin, Harris English. Gonna just have to be off those guys. I will add Seamus Parr though. I will play him a little bit. First event here after the BMW Championship. I think he's a guy that typically plays well in a weaker type field. So overall though, I don't think anyone here is gonna be like a core player or anything for me. Just guys that I'll potentially have in my player pool.
Yeah, I like, a lot of these guys, even like 5 or 6 of them. But I will say this to your point earlier, like you mentioned with Burns, another really interesting strategy piece or roster construction piece that I think for this week would actually make a lot of sense from everything we just talked about in the 9K range where people want to play. They just can't get away from it. You got Montgomery, Stallings for the things I mentioned, Grillo for how he's been playing. And then Riley, it shows in the ownership, Grillo, Riley, Montgomery, 3 of the top 5 guys that people are playing, McCarthy and Stallings right after them as of now. And it's because people have the money to spend. So I think with that being said, Hoop, if you're going to go the heavy Burns approach, I actually wouldn't hate if you load up on some of these guys and go like Burns, 3 8K guys, and then roll down from there into your values, or Burns, 2 8K guys, and then down from there. I think you could do that in this range. Some of the guys for me, love Wyndham Clark and Mullinax with you. Taylor Moore gets bunched in there as well. Those three to me are just what we talked about. Bomb it out there, find a way to get it up and down, score like crazy on DraftKings, get 4 par 5s for those guys. It's not like, again, nothing's for sure or guaranteed, but it's hard to imagine those guys missing the cut. And then the upside they can bring you, even on just a top 30, is massive at about average price tag or just above it in some cases. And then they're filling out your roster. So that's kind of the point I'd have there. I like what you said on Seamus Power. I brought up earlier JT Poston winning the Barbasol. Losing in a playoff at the Barbasol was what I said earlier. He won the John Deere. He lost in that playoff to Seamus Power, who was an absolute dog, making a bunker shot made a bunker shot and put all the pressure on JT Post and then won it on the next hole when JT probably thought he had it won on the previous hole. And we didn't get to reflect on that hoop. The Danny Willett. Did you watch that? Willett versus Homa the week before the President's Cup?
Tough scene there.
Insane, right?
Yeah,
so
yes.
That is what that reminded me of, just thinking back to that. So, that's another guy that makes 4. The one guy I want to take a flyer on here, though, is Adam Hadwin. And this is pure narrative based. Canadians, by the way, put my
that's usually my role. That's my role on this show, not yours. What are you doing?
We're getting there. Save the bit, please. The boys did not come through though at the President's Cup. Connors, Pendrith, terrible showing. You know who didn't make the President's Cup that probably thought he would or could and just didn't have a good enough season? Adam Hadwin. Do you know who watched those boys not come through, and as much as he's best friends with them, would like to come out and show he's still got it at an event like this? And I think he can. And you pull up the stats, top 20, tee to green, birdies are better gained, DraftKings scoring, surprisingly, and 12th in the last 50 rounds in par 5 scoring is Adam Hadwin. You know why? He puts it out there enough into the fairway. He lays it up. He's got decent wedges in, and he can make putts. So another guy that's going to have looks and going to be able to score. And yeah, Dozer's in the chat, never Hadwin. We'll see. It's just a narrative-based play. Like I say, you're not going to be heavy on a guy like him, but you don't have to be on a week like this. I think there's definitely an angle there for someone like him. And it's about the price, like 8,300, I think would have been fair. He's 8,700. So you're paying up a little bit for this guy, but look at some of the other guys you're paying up for, Henley at 10.1K. That's a big difference. Bezuidenhout, we talked about at 9,300. So it's not that crazy to pay this for a guy like him. And that's really all in this range for me, Hoop, so we can move on. 7K range. This is where, and this is what I was saving the bit for, we're going to start at 7,400 and up because they got 2 of your Canadian boys at 7,400, Mr. Nick Taylor, and then your favorite, Adam Svensson, both at 7,400. What are you going to do?
Nick Taylor's now at the point for me where he's got to be in the 6Ks for me to play him. And I don't care what the field is. I don't care if it's this week field or whatever. I need him in the 6s. I can't. The problem is I like Svensson better than him. Obviously, I'm definitely on my boy Svensson. There's like three 7.4K guys that I really like that I want to be on. So unfortunately, Mr. Nick Taylor is not going to be in the player pool this week. Svensson is. Mark Hubbard definitely is at 7.4. Hubbard, in these sort of events, I just think he's such a strong play. I mean, the scoring upside's so big for him. Looked good at the Fortinet, in on him for sure. And then I'm going to take a flyer on Benny Ann, who looked pretty good there at the Fortinet, finishing 4th. So in on all 3 of those guys, I think strong plays. Justin Lower at 7.5K was part of that T4 tie at the Fortinet. I like him. But as you get higher up here in the 7Ks, I'm just going to fade a lot of these guys. Brendan Todd, Justin Sue. I mean, I always play. I mean, you probably know more about this guy. I mean, it looks like he's crushed the tour. But anytime he comes up here on the PGA Tour, it seems like he just sucks. So I'm just fading guys like that. I'm not really going to be in on Steele. So, more of those 7.4K guys I like quite a bit lower. That's probably about it.
Who was the guy you said that comes up probably sucks? I was in the chat.
Justin Sue. Yeah, Justin Sue. He always, like, the Corn Ferry stuff looks great. Everyone talks about him. Everyone wants to play him. Gets on the PGA Tour, and he just doesn't do anything. So I'm done playing him because I always play him.
You have to believe in the talent. That's the only thing. It's crazy.
Why? Is he good?
Oh, very good. Yeah, he's the forgotten man.
Then why does he suck whenever he comes up on in the PGA Tour?
So, some people just take a little longer to blossom than others, Hoop. It's just the way life goes. But if you look, like, his record is incredible. If the miscut at the Fortinet is not good, but before that he won the Corn Ferry Tour Championship, 9th, 5th, 7th, 10th, 15th, 8th, all mixed into his last 7 or 8 events previous to that, which the only reason that's kind of interesting is because, some of the other guys that are priced way up have similar results recently. It's just not in the same class, but these events are the closest you can get to a Corn Ferry Tour event. Besides the guys at the very top, there's other guys down here, though, that you could make the same argument for. Someone just mentioned Robbie Shelton in the chat. We'll get down to that range in a minute. I definitely like that. Just going down to it real quick here, though. So was a guy I was going to bring up just because, like I said, for those that are watching for a first time or don't know, and if you are watching for the first time or just joined us right now, please do us a favor, hit that like button. It helps us out a ton. We're going to be grinding this show right into an NFL show just after this. So hit us the like button now, hit the subscribe if you haven't for all of our free shows, and stick around. But I was going to bring up for the newcomers hoop just because of the Hovland, Morikawa, Wolf class. He was right there in the 4th chair. It just never panned out the way it did for the other guys. I mean, if it had of, maybe he's over on Live right now with his boy Matty Wolf. I don't know, but I digress. Dean Burmeister, Mean Dean, we like him. He's here. He's 7,600. I can play some of him. I like Alex Smalley. He's another guy at 7,500 that you can get after in this range. Benny On, who you talked about, and I'm a Nick Hardy truther. I've talked about this guy a bunch as well, all through even the regular season on the PGA Tour when he was coming back from injury and had some really good setups that he came out strong at. So I think he's really good down here at 7,500. And with people, you can't play everybody, right? People are going to have Benny On, Svensson, Hubbard, all those guys that I'm mixing in as well. But Brian in the chat just brought it up, came up live. Hardy bombs it and makes putts. I agree. That's why I like him. And then I'm definitely with you on Svensson over Taylor. And I like your Hubbard call, American, by the way, but very Canadian-esque in the sense that just a jolly, happy guy, likes to drink beers greenside while he's cheering on his boys. Super nice dude. I think he makes a lot of sense here at 7,400 as well. So I can get on him here with you as well. So let's move down. Let's go to this 7,300 down to 7K range. 6K range doesn't have as much to talk about this week. So spend as much time here as you feel is needed, but 7,300 down to 7K.
Yeah, really, honestly, not a ton for me down here. I prefer I do have some guys that I like in the 6K range, which we'll talk about next. And I just don't think these guys are much different than those 6K guys that I like. So just pulling this up here, Joseph Bramlett's a guy I always keep in the player pool. He finished 12th last week, 7.2K. I do like him quite a bit. Bomb it out there, hit the green. Hopefully he makes a couple putts. So very interested in him. I'm definitely playing my boy Neesmith at 7.1K. Has not been great. Missed the cut at the Fortinet, but I'll go back to him at 7.1. Lee Hodges at 7K. I'm going to play some of him. He missed the cut there too, but 7K, good price tag. Hayden Buckley's a guy I just think has a lot of upside, and he did miss the cut at the Fortinet as well, but 7K, I'll take a chance on him. So not really my favorite range here, maybe like 3 or 4 guys. Patrick Rogers, what a disaster that was. I mean, he was like the consensus, like cheap guy that everyone wanted to play. And wasn't he like 5 over through 5 holes or something?
He cannot putt, man. He just can't putt.
Yeah. So I'll be fading him. Maybe 3 or 4 guys in this range that I'm looking at.
Yeah, where I struggle is sort of right at 7,300. I like Luke List. I like Robbie Shelton, who was brought up in the chat earlier. And then at 72, in this range, I should say, there's 4 guys. It's Luke List, Robbie Shelton, Steven Jaeger Bombs, Bramlett, and then actually one more, Davis Thompson. So those 5 can't really play a bunch of all of them off to take an overweight stance. Right now, it looks like for me, Davis Thompson, I like him. Bramlett, I like him. And then, of course, Jaeger Bombs, another guy that I love. So probably those 3 more than the guys at 7,300, but Shelton and List stand out a little bit for me. And then just going down, I'm with you on Neesmith at 7,100. And then I really like Hayden Buckley at 7,000. He's the guy to me that sets up best for the course. I don't know how much ownership he'll get. Right now I'm just trying to look here, see first glance. I don't see very much, to be honest. Like I said, I'll put all my stuff in after, but at 7,000 even, he's a guy that can definitely just round out your roster if you want to completely fade the 6K range. So like you said, not a bunch down in this range. There's all kinds of guys that people are going to play and take shots on. Austin Eckroad, aka Austin Eckgoat. People are going to go there. Lipsky always gets a little love. Ches Reavy, Chesticles. People will go there. Like people are always going to play their guys in these ranges. And while our guys will have some ownership associated with them, this is where I want to take the most stand. So I don't want to just get a few pieces of everyone down here. I'd rather get pieces of the guys up top that I think can actually go and win this thing in that 8K and above range. And these guys will be your value pieces that round things out. So let's move on. Let's go to the 6K range, Hoop. We've got Tyler Duncan. Let's go down to 6,500 first. There's 3 or 4 guys in here I could mention, but then after that, it gets pretty bad. So go ahead.
First guy I think is this Carl, what is it, Juan or Jan or however you pronounce it. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people expect him to be good. He's another guy that came up and whiffed on his first try at the Fortinet, missed the cut. I might go back to him a little bit. I think he had some decent ownership last time and kind of busted, so maybe people get off him. Taryn at 6'9", I'm playing him. I think that's a good price tag. Austin Smotherman, I'll always play when he's cheap like this, 6.8K. And he was good last week. I mean, one of the few cheap guys here this week that was good at the Fortinet, 25th. We'll take that all day. Cheston Hadley, I'm in on it at 6.8K. Adam Shank, potentially, definitely Adam Long. I mean, that's another guy I have a problem with where I just have to play him. And he hasn't been great lately, but I'm definitely playing Long at 6'7". Patton Kazire, Nate Lashley, a couple more guys that I'll keep in the player pool. And then my last guy down at 6.5K is going to be Mr. Vaughn Taylor. Hasn't been good. Was 12th at his last Corn Ferry event, but 6.5K. I'll take some Vaughn.
All right, I got some the same. Up top, we're very similar. I like Tyler Duncan first off. That's one that you didn't mention, but I love him. He's my guy. I'll play over your problem guys with like Adam Long and those dudes. I really like Tyler Duncan. I think he's a guy that can go low. Carl Juan, Callum Taryn, guys that can just make birdies in bunches. And I think in this field, they're just too cheap. And I think this is the thing, like, I'm not going to diss your plays. I'm just saying like the Longs, the Vaughn Taylors, they can pop at any given time, but they remind me of the McCarthys. Now, it is safer to do that down in this range. There's not going to be ownership associated with them. All you need is the made cut, and they'll probably outscore their tag a bunch. So it actually does make perfect sense. I'm still willing to just take some boom bust risk on some of these guys down here. You're playing them too, but like the Smothermans, the Terrans, the Wands, they can just blow up and miss. But if they make it, I think they just destroy those other guys at those price tags. Even though long-term talents are there for the course setup, for the scoring that we want, all those things, I like them quite a bit. The long one was the one I like the best that you mentioned, but I would play Shank, like I said, over him. MJ, I think it's Daffy. It goes by, even though it looks like Dafu, but he's a guy that can go low, crazy low. Won a bunch of Monday qualifiers in the past. Not that this is that, but on a course that has 4 par 5s, you need to go low. Eagles, everything that are out there. I really like him. I can get back to our guy. My problem guy for sure down here would be Vince Whaley at 6,600. We played him a bunch last season in PGA Tour events. It kind of goes with what you were mentioning earlier. It's not a Corn Ferry Tour guy that, we're waiting to bounce back or do something like that. He's shown success in the past. You're taking a flyer on him at this price, so I think you could definitely go to that. Our friend Joanne wished her, want to stay safe down there with Hurricane Ian, but she said Hubbard never made the cut here. Just to comment real quick on that, I mentioned a little bit off the top, not sure if you were here at that moment, but I actually care way less about course history at this course. You'll look back at the histories of the people that play here, and it will go miscut, win, miscut, 14th, 38, 36, miscut, 4th. Like, it's just not consistent. It all depends on it's just very week to week at a course like this, more so than like if they've done it in the past, they're going to do it again. Putting really matters the most, and that's where the variance comes in with that course history. Hoop, I mentioned Sam Ryder on the pod last night. I put a first round leader bet on him at 90-1. Sam Ryder. I think we always see him go low early and then sort of fizzle out. So maybe not so much for your DFS player pool, but first round leader bet on Sam Ryder, my favorite one of the week. I'll put all the rest of my first round leader bets. I've got like 4 or 5 more, all at long odds in the RPS Discord. So if you're not a member yet, sign up at Run Pure Sports. Just another added perk that we throw out there. Had a couple big winners throughout the end of the regular season. So looking to go back to that. Augusto Nunez is a Corn Ferry Tour guy, birdie maker. So if you wanted to be different than Carl Juan in the sense that it's Corn Ferry Tour guys that make birdies, and you mentioned like certain ones, Justin Suh, guys like that just don't show up, but then, they show up on Corn Ferry Tour. Nunez could be that guy for you. And then one bomb at the very bottom, and BM is the initials. Brandon Matthews, 6,200. A bomb in DFS at 6,200. A guy that absolutely bombs it off the tee. So, and can make birdies, all that. It's definitely a high risk play. But if you wanted to go there and you think you need the salary, I got no problem going down to him. That's really all I got, though, Hoop, going down here in this range. So 7 or 8 guys. Yeah, one was mentioned. Brian brought it up. He did win in Louisiana on the Corn Ferry Tour. So this is where the angles come in the narratives. I'm not sure how much steam Juan is going to get by the end of the week. Like, this is Tuesday. Obviously, lock isn't until Thursday morning. But like Hoop said, he was popular last time. I know other guys in the industry are talking about him. He looks really good for 6,900. There's no doubt. It's just, you can use them. You can get different easily elsewhere. It just depends on how you want to set up your lineups. Callum Tarrant could end up being a better play. You could absolutely see it in one event that we're talking about for this week. So just think about that when you're building out your lineups. There's a lot of other guys down here. I actually like Buckley, like I said, quite a bit at 7,000 as well. So I think there's a lot of options who in general on the slate, but not as many down in this range. Anything else you want to add down here? Anyone else that you want to bring up?
Yeah, nothing super cheap. I mean, I might give my guy Richie Wierenski a chance at 6'3" to kick off the season, see if he can kind of get hot, miss the cut at the Fortinet. Maybe he turns it around. Kevin Tway, I'll play a little bit. I mean, he'll be unowned. It's not going to take much. So just a little bit on him. He can hit it far. Probably about it, I'd say. Yeah, nothing else down here.
Yeah, Kevin Tway, I want to pull up right quick because he actually is the more interesting one to me than Wierenski. Wierenski can go low with the best of them, like you talked about, but a little bit more risky and not as consistent. Again, Tway is not consistent either, so I guess you'd be taking a shot there. I was actually looking at another guy here. Ben Griffin is right there at 6,300. Just made me think of him for a second. He missed the cut at the Fortinet, but before that, he was 4th at the Wyndham. So another guy you could consider. That field was pretty weak. Had guys like Taylor Moore, Russell Henley. It's when Tom Kim won, speaking of the hero from earlier, but like Steven Yeager was up there. Your boy Hadley was up there. Smalley, some of the guys, Davis Riley. So a lot of, guys that were up there, and it was on Bermuda as well. So I'm going to add Ben Griffin as another guy down here at that price tag as a flyer for large field tournaments. Any final thoughts for the week before we get out of here, Hoop? It's another good event. Like I said, we cover these a lot over at Run Pure. And I think that it's just another thing that you can get an edge with. And you're not worried about how much is the golf package because it's the same price as every other package. So get in for NFL. Get this. NBA will be here in 2 weeks. We're going to be pumping up something big for that. So lots of stuff going on over at Run Pure Sports. If nothing else on this tournament, talk about that, Hoop. Anything else you want to add on Run Pure?
Yeah, I mean, obviously massive night, probably one of the biggest nights ever, I'd say, for the Run Pure Sports community overall, highlighted by Big T's big win. And I mean, just every single person in Discord, just massive wins, continues the stretch of dominance in not only Showdown, but other sports. I mean, you had the ship in PGA and the Showdown slate last week. And, but the business model is, it's just one price for everything. We're not going to separate it when a new sport starts. Obviously, NBA is right around the corner. If you subscribe at another site, they're going to say you owe me $350 for the NBA product or $400 at Run Pure. We don't do that. It's just all included in the everyday price that we charge. And it's the lowest in the industry as well. So you get way more for your money. And you also get people that are picking winners, not just giving you like these baseline projections that everyone has like the same projections out there. So we give you the plays, we give you our core plays, just a ton of content for every sport that's offered on DraftKings, FanDuel. And with the success that we recently had, I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer if you're trying to make some money doing this stuff.
Yeah, in our boy Nades in the chat, Nades knows. He said, I got cute with Big T's core, went Noah Brown and Sills over Lamb and Mayer. I went Shepard over Zeke with it just because I wanted to leave a little bit of salary, and our turns come around. That's the biggest thing with the community. We love to see it. We love to see these other winners. I've had a good last 4 days myself. Hoop, you're always having good weeks. It always comes around, but that's the key. When we added Live Golf, love it or hate it, don't care. When we added it, it gets added in for free. We cover it in full. Showdown slates. When the new classic came out, we did full playbooks, player pools, everything. Summer league for like basketball. We got killers in there like Kurt and guys like that. CFB, college football. You Kill Bill Walsh just absolutely crushed it last week. You get all of that included. F1 decides it's going to up its contest and make things bigger. You get that. There's every sport, tennis, you name it, all the sports that you're getting. It's just being in that Discord and being able to flip from the golf channel. What's going on in there? Over to the NFL channel. You're with a community of people that are trying to get better and trying to win. And most of the people last week, you'll see when I record the core report for this week, all the winners, they weren't maxing the slate out, trying to get their best EV off of 150 lineups. They were putting in 30 or 40 bucks like they always do and trying to ship as much as possible. And look, even if that lineup had got beat at the last second, their 30 or 40 was going to turn into like 300 or 400. So they were still getting a huge return on their money, but it just happened to be that it shipped the whole slate and it won everything. And everyone, all uniques, this, that. We're going to get into it on the next show. But most of the winners of the 124-man split pool, man-woman pool, was RPS people using the free show information that they all dropped yesterday with Big T, JSU, JT Hayes, using Big T's cores that were posted right on the site where you get 3 guys of the 6, and then you had to plug it in based on the rest of his player pool. Spoiler alert, it was right there, 3 of the top 4 guys he had listed. So many ways to get the job done. If you don't want to join yet, or you don't want to put the money in to run Pure Sports, I understand. Do us a favor, join these shows, subscribe to the channel for free, get the information that way. You could have taken it from the show yesterday. You wouldn't have got the core pulled up for you, but you would have taken the information and been able to build this lineup like some others did. When you then win that money, use it to subscribe, join the movement, believe in it for real, get in the Discord, because that's where all the action is. So that's going to do it for this week, Hoop. We appreciate everybody. We love doing these shows. We're going to continue doing this one every week, 12 p.m. Eastern. That's going to do it for this week. For Hoop, for my guy Simon behind the scenes, and myself, Toe Tag and Tambo. Simon, get us out of here, man.